Good morning, everybody. Hey, I've been saved once again. Can y'all hear me okay? All right. Been saved once again. I had a talk with a guy, gentleman, on the first day. I don't remember who it was. I've had a few conversations since then. And we were talking about how people are kind of getting away from using an actual physical Bible and leaning toward digital versions, iPad, your phone, things like that. And I have that habit, and I said it is good to get just to use a Bible because you have a lot of references and things like that. Well, it's really funny that conversation happened that day, because later that afternoon is when I realized I didn't even have my Bible. I left it at home. I just had my iPad. I use my iPad all the time, so I borrowed one, so we're okay. I didn't want to bring the iPad up here. Also, greetings from the Lake Tahoe, Kentucky, and Panama City Beach feast sites. I've spoken with a few of these guys, and they've sent their love to each and every one of you. And I know I haven't spoken with anyone at Myrtle Beach, but I know that they had a baptism out there, so things are going well. So we are very thankful, and every feast site seems like numbers are up this year, so we're blessed. We're very blessed. Many years ago, Mr. Herbert W. Armstrong said, we live in a world of awesome progress and appalling evils. And he was right. What do you think he'd have to say about that today? That was, well, not that wasn't nearly 40 years ago, but nearly 40 years have gone by since he passed, and I just have a few fun facts. I wanted to talk a bit about that awesome progress and a little about appalling evil as well, as there's plenty of that to go around, I believe. You know, a few quick innovations from just 40 years ago, in case you've forgotten that we were blown away at personal computers being created. Yep, 40 years ago, those didn't exist, especially as they do now. Macintosh made millionaires overnight with their stocks. VHS tapes. Any young people know what a VHS tape is? 40 years ago, those were the thing. I remember when that came about, my mom used to record every single thing she could on live television, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. She had thousands of them. I don't know whatever happened to them, but I know they're gone and I don't have to deal with it, so that's good. Pagers. Pagers were beeping and buzzing on everyone's hips. Polaroid cameras. You remember a Polaroid camera? Those things still exist, actually. You know, you just point, click, and out comes a blank photograph that just needs a little shake. You know the shake. She knows the shake. She's over there doing it. Yep, the old Polaroid shake. Well, that was 40 years ago. That was some awesome progress from 40 years ago. So how about today? I have a list. I'll have to read this list. It's an extensive list, unfortunately. I'm sorry. But it's pretty neat. How about SpaceX? Elon Musk created that company. On September 28th, just a few weeks ago, Falcon 9 launched the Crew 9 mission from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral to the International Space Station. That's all right. That's pretty impressive. We've been doing that for a while. That's, you know, it's all right. If you want to be impressed, we'll talk about that Falcon 9. It's manufactured, obviously, by SpaceX. That's a private company. It's not government or anything like that. This is the world's first orbital class reusable rocket. It's been launched 376 times, landed 333 times. I take it that means it didn't make it every time. You may remember back in 1969 watching the Apollo 11 launch, and you know that a lot of that just, that came back crashing down into the ocean, lost forever, not reusable in any way, of course. That, back in 1969, was pretty amazing, though. But that was back then. So when Falcon 9 launched a few weeks ago, it launched into space, and it safely landed back on the launch pad nearby in under 8 minutes total. That's pretty incredible. And that video is out there for you to see if you care to go view that. That's pretty neat. A lot of y'all may have seen that already. Let's see, did you know SpaceX, they have what they call Starship. They did a 5th flight test just a little over a week ago. And what they call the Super Heavy booster they used for that. It launched to outer space and returned, but that's not the extent of that. The booster actually guided itself back to its own launching pad and slowed itself down to nearly a stop midair, keeping perfectly upright, and without a bobble, it was caught midair and right back where it started. So that's pretty amazing. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty neat. Also, we've seen I don't know how long this has been out. I think they just announced it a week ago, the Tesla Optimus bot. Who saw that? Who has seen this? Not very many people. Prepare yourselves to be terrified. It's a robot, obviously. And it is humanoid, so I saw videos, I've seen many videos of it wandering around, walking around with people, having conversations, talking about anything that it was asked. It would talk. It didn't sound like a robot. It didn't sound like Siri. It didn't sound like Alexa. It sounded like you. So the first couple of videos I saw, I thought, is that really this robot speaking? Because it sounded too real. So go check that out. If you haven't seen those videos, that'll get you going. You might have to buy some more ammo or something. Be ready. They're going to take over. We've seen the movies. We know what's going to happen. Okay. Moving on to some other awesome progress here. Some surgical procedures. We've come a long way in the surgical field. Surgeons are just now beginning to have the ability to use augmented reality to perform spinal surgeries. And what that technology is, it allows doctors to see the spine without actually seeing the spine. They can use scans of the actual patient's spine and basically they put on the AR glasses or however that works, and that image shows them exactly where that spine is in reference to the patient. So they can actually work based on that. They're learning that. That technology is also helping to train doctors to allow them to learn these procedures without actually being there and doing it, which is a little nerve-wracking all on its own, but don't think about that. We won't think about that. That technology, not limited to just the spine, it's being used for many other purposes, including hip replacement. So if you need a hip, I have the name of the doctors that you shouldn't use just yet. All right. Apple Watch. Some of us have Apple Watches or the equivalent on Android. They have many health monitors heartbeat, blood oxygen level, watches for possible sleep apnea. It can perform an ECG. It watches for AFib as well, and it will alert you. I had a little Short example of that happening, a 35-year-old woman noticed that her heart rate was elevated late one evening. She tried to bring it down, thought maybe it was just a panic attack. I think everybody's sort of been there before. She didn't have her Apple Watch on at the time, but she decided to go grab it and put it on, and it did detect an irregular heartbeat. It alerted her immediately and told her to go to a hospital, which she did. She was checked and discovered that she did have AFib, and the hospital was able to treat that. But had she not done that, there's a chance that that may not have ended so well. She could have not worried about her Apple Watch and just went to the hospital. That's what I probably would have done, but that's an example of how that can work. So that's pretty neat technology. 40 years ago, you'd been reading news articles on paper, not on your tablet, not on the internet. The internet is full of things now. That didn't exist just 40 years ago. Mobile phones, those didn't exist 40 years ago. Those didn't exist until after the year 2000 in really great quantities. They just weren't really out there. Only the super rich had those in their cars. I saw them in movies with the wires and everything. I don't know if that's real, but that was funny to me. Let's see. The first phone didn't have internet access till around that time as well. And if you wanted a phone with internet access only, and I promise it would not have been convenient to use, it was over $800 at the time, back in the year 2000. Text messaging didn't come around till after that. Mobile phones began including functions like taking photos. Yep, that's not always been a thing either. And connecting to the internet, that was in 2005 is when that began. 2007, first iPhone. The first phone with a touch screen, I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if that's true. But phone, camera, computer, everything you had. 2007 is when that came along. It all sort of seems so long ago, and I'm sure to the kids, I mean, that's all they've ever known. So same thing with GPS. The first modernized GPS satellite was not launched until 2005. And GPS in your cell phones didn't even begin testing until 2004. So there you have it on that. And here we are today. If you have a car that's fewer than 10 years old, you probably have GPS navigation built in with a touch screen. We're spoiled. You don't need a paper map. Who uses a paper map? Do people still use paper maps? Dr. Ricks does. I knew he was going to raise his hand. I knew it. Oh, let's see. I have just a couple quick more here. I'll try to get through. Weapons technology has gone pretty wild. You've probably seen the video. It's a few years old now of a robotic dog with weapons attached, with firearms. That's scary. That's scary. This was impressive to me. I did not know this. Direct energy weapons. This exists. They are a ranged weapon that damages its target with highly focused energy without a solid projectile, using lasers, microwaves, particle beams, and sound beams. Ammunition, not a problem for these weapons. The lasers, yes, they travel at light speed and have long range, making them suitable for space warfare. Who knew that we would be worried about that? That was in an article I read. Hopefully it doesn't come down to that. Star Trek's real. That's what I'm getting at here. Now we're there. We have laser guns. I don't think we actually have any handheld things like that. I hope not. But not only is the United States developing this technology, but China, France, Germany, the UK, Russia, India, Israel, and Pakistan are also all developing military-grade direct energy weapons. Iran and Turkey claim to already have them in active use. Let's see, I'll try to skip through a little bit of that. I had a lot on that, because those direct energy weapons that's a scary thing to think about. That really is. Let's see. I'm going to skip over this. So the artificial intelligence. Do we want to talk about artificial intelligence? I don't know if we want to talk about it. It has to do with everything that I've already been talking about, but it's the center of it all. It's the center of just about everything you touch and do anymore involves artificial intelligence. Your digital assistant, Siri, that you talk to send text messages, Alexa, same thing. Here's a surprise for you if you didn't know. It's used to suggest products to you while you're scrolling on Facebook. Who knew? Who knew? Those things are really spot on. I've had 2 or 3 times during this feast that somebody said something around me and I'm getting the advertisements for it. I don't need that product, please. It's used for facial recognition, surveillance, threat detection, and security systems. It is used in, obviously, we covered that, medical evaluation and diagnostics. AI is used to power autonomous vehicles. Self-driving Teslas, yep, that's AI. I got this little quote from a Google search. It said, AI can analyze large data sets to help researchers make sense of information and advance their understanding of the world. For example, this is the part that got me. AI helped to develop the COVID-19 vaccine. That was a Google search. I didn't say it. So some of these things I think we could honestly put on our list of appalling evil, but the world doesn't see it as evil, they see it as progress. Let's make some progress. So speaking of appalling evil, we're going to go through a couple of statistics that are going to make us sad, angry. Abortion in America. I hope you haven't looked into that. The statistics will make you sick. More than 1 million babies were aborted in the United States in 2023 alone. 88% were performed on women in their 20s and 30s. Less than 1.5% of these were due to incest or rape. Yep. It's clear that that movement is about a woman's right to choose death, not life. Purely selfish. 74% were because it would dramatically change or inconvenience the young mother's life. The transitioning of innocent little children, maybe just the worst of the worst. Chemical castration, butchery. I can't get too much into detail. These chemicals, they actually physically change the human body and have been proven, totally proven, to completely end the ability to reproduce. How about the world of pronouns? Does that sound like fun? No? Okay, we'll move on from that. We've seen enough of those. We've seen enough of these guys. Right before we came down here, I was talking to my boss about that exact thing. He knows where I stand. I know where he stands. And he said, my wife and I, We're in a restaurant, sitting down, having a peaceful meal, enjoying ourselves, and in came a mother and 2 children, and one of them was dressed up like a cat. And I don't know, when you see these things, you sort of know what you're seeing. You understand that it's not just fun. It's not just fun. And it's disgusting, it's sick. You can't just play along with these things. It's just, the pronouns and letting your children be cats. They're not cats. We're not cats. The child doesn't know any better. The child's having fun. He doesn't know, or she doesn't know really what's going on, and the parents know better. Or they should. I guess they don't, but they need to know better. How about crime statistics? We'll go through some of those quickly. Murder, yep, it's up. It's on the rise. I just saw a few days ago, crime statistics from 2022 were changed. They tried to make it look good. They said crime's down. Back then, I guess, they said crime's down. 2.1% celebrated that. Well, guess what? It was actually up 4.5%. They just changed that. So, big lie there. Let's see. Make sure you lock your vehicles. Car theft. Yeah, it's not looking good. Back in the early 90s, it wasn't bad. Mid-90s, it was kind of going down, dropping, pretty flat through the early 2000s. Then suddenly, since 2021, sky high. Vehicle theft. Sky high. I guess they're making them easy to steal. I don't know. Narcotics arrests. Drug dealers, they apparently knew what they were doing back in the 60s, and there wasn't a lot going on. They lost their edge in the 70s. Crime arrests or narcotics arrests were going up. Around 500,000 arrests per year throughout the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, up until around the mid-2000s when it peaked in 2006. There were 1.9 million arrests for narcotics. Since marijuana has been legalized most places for recreational or however, I don't really keep up with it a whole lot, but since that was legalized most places, that number has plummeted as well. Along with that, drug abuse. There's a lot of that going on. We don't want to cover that too much. Overdose death numbers are just absolutely staggering and sad. 107,000 in 2023 overdose deaths. Nearly 75,000 of those were fentanyl. The list of evils could go on and on. I mean, it can go on and on. The attack on Israel. How about the division that we're seeing in America? The media is really not helping with that, are they? The January 6ers still in prison. I have never been really explained, it's never been explained to me exactly what they did other than be free. They're not allowed to be free anymore. We live in a society where where some people are free to incriminate themselves live on social media and even attempt to murder or successfully murder anyone they deem to be an enemy or even a threat to democracy. While the law seems to just sort of stand by. They seem to let these things happen. Appalling evil's right. Boy, that's right. Before all these wonderful advances in technology, we could take a break. We could get away from the news, and that feels impossible now. These things are happening everywhere, and it's very overwhelming. I'm not going to turn there, but Daniel 12, verse 4 says, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." It wasn't that long ago that we had to wonder how that knowledge could come about. And I know I'm sort of making an odd connection there, We don't really have to wonder about knowledge anymore. Knowledge is abundant. We have been greatly blessed to be able to understand the things going on in the world and what it all means. The knowledge that we've covered today is, being increased by technology and innovation. As time has passed, it seems more and more difficult to keep up with all of the knowledge we can access all over the world. We watch, we wait for what's next, really not too sure we want to know what's going to happen next. We don't want to know what's coming, but it is our job. The future is something that can absolutely be stressful. It can be very stressful, but I hope that we can see that we do have other things to worry about. We do have other things to worry about as well. So I guess the question is, what should we be doing? What can we be doing that will help us to endure till the end of it all? Now, I don't mean to the end of this life, but rather the end times. Some of us may still be around for the end. So we have to be thinking about that. Just look around at what's going on. It's incredible. Things seem to be moving rapidly, and we know already how quickly things can develop. So how do we endure to the actual end of the age? I think that as time has gone, we tend to believe or think that we need to be examining ourselves once per year. We observe these holy days, and I just don't want us to get into a rut of thinking that that's what we need to do. We're going to do this once a year, but I believe that God intended for us to be examining ourselves constantly, not once a year. Always examining ourselves to just be absolutely sure that the evils that we see befalling the entire world, it seems, they have not crept in, and they will not creep in to any of our hearts as individuals. Is your individual duty to examine yourself? And certainly we can't allow it to creep into the church of God. I try to practice this. I don't mean to make this about me. It's not. But I'd rather find the flaw in myself. I'd rather find a flaw to be processing God's word, to be focused on it and say, hey, this is something I need to improve on. I'd rather find that myself than have someone come to me and say, you really need to think about this. You're not quite right there. So when pondering how we can stay on top of it, I think it's a good idea to remember Galatians 5. I had a whole lot of Galatians 5 in here, and I took some of it out, but I'm going to read Galatians 5, verse 13, and a little bit more than that even. I'm not used to this Bible, bear with me. This is very large print. I may have to get one of these. I can see. Nope. I will get there. I keep skipping over it somehow. I could have read this off my notes. I have all of this on my notes. Here we go. Haha. Did you have enough time to get there? Okay. Galatians 5, verse 13. For, brethren, ye have been called unto liberty, only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another. I'm going to skip down to verse 22 here. Verse 22, read a few here. The most important part here, maybe. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. And they that are Christ's have crucified the flesh with the affections and lust. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. There is no way for those called by God to just get by. There's no way for us to just get by. There's more to enduring to the end than just survival. We have to be working very hard, constantly, to improve ourselves based on these very easy to understand fruits of the Spirit. They're very easy to understand. This is how we should be. And if we kind of get to thinking we're doing pretty good, well, don't let that sink in too much. There's always going to be room for improvement. There's always room for improvement for each one of us. We know, we see the battle, the blatant battle going on between good and evil. We see it, we feel it. It is very, very possible for us to fall into the hands of evil if we're not careful. We always have to have our guard up. And we have to keep our heads on straight, focus on God's law and the gospel. Satan has the time right now. He has the time to work you over. He works me over. While he can't completely upend the church, he can pull any one of us completely off course. He can do it, and he can do it pretty easily, unless we're fighting. Unless we're really fighting, and we set our worldly desires aside and really focus on our salvation as the time grows short. In 1 Timothy chapter 4, we'll go there here for a few. Yes, okay. In 1 Timothy 4, verse 1, we'll skip through a little bit here. We'll read verse 1, we'll skip a little bit. It says in 1 Timothy 4, verse 1, "Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times, some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils." Yep, we must all do our very best to be sincere and truly love the truth that God has given us and made so clear. It's so clear. I'm going to skip down to verse 10 here in 1 Timothy 4. It says, "For therefore we both labor and suffer reproach, because we trust in the living God, who is the Savior of all men, especially of those that believe." Yep, we all have to learn to accept correction, and not for anybody else's sake, for our own sake. I don't like being corrected. That's one of those things, though, that comes with having the truth and also not being perfect. No person's perfect, so be ready. Be ready for somebody to tell you you're wrong. Verse 11 says, "These things command and teach. Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word, in conversation, in charity, love, in spirit, in faith, in purity. Till I come, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine. Neglect not the gift that is in thee, which was given thee by prophecy with a laying on of the hands." Let's see. How far am I going here? Yes, okay. I continue in verse 15. "Meditate upon these things, give thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all. Take heed unto thyself and unto the doctrine, continue in them, for in doing this thou shalt both save thyself and them that hear thee." You know that I've heard a few times over the years of fellow believers struggling to forgive. I've heard it, I've seen it, and it's something that is sometimes, unfortunately, easily seen. And that's scary, because that's not what we've ever been taught to do. That's not what that's not who we are. But I know, and you know, that we're not perfect. So it's something that we all work on. It's something we all work on. And I just want to say, be careful of letting that sort of thing creep in. I've heard it, I've seen it, especially if it's family, family versus family. That can be an issue. We shouldn't let things divide us. We can't. We just can't let things divide us. Sort of having that and not forgiving is something that can cost us. That's something that can cost our salvation. Not only one person, but multiple people could be drawn down by this. And, we read, there's a couple of verses or a couple places in the Bible where we see, I actually have one of them, Matthew 6, verses 14 and 15. You can turn there if you'd like. And, it's sort of the same thing back in Mark chapter 11, but Matthew 6, verses 14 and 15. "For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you." Verse 15 says, "But if you forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses." You just read that out of your own Bible, right out of God's Word. I know we have some issues. I know that not everything can be fixed. I know we have forgiveness issues. And I don't speak of any one situation. I've heard of many, many issues that we have. So that's why I kind of thought maybe I'd speak a little bit about that. We just can't have that. We just cannot have forgiveness. We have to have forgiveness for one another. We just do. So, if there's anybody sitting here or watching online and you have some issues, I think that you should seek counseling with the ministry of the church. It doesn't have to be between you and anyone else. Seek counseling immediately and do everything in your power. You know, we look around this room and we see our brothers and our sisters, and we see people who we are desperate to see after this life. I want to see everybody there. I want to see me there. I'm worried about me. I have problems. I'm worried about me. I'm not just worried about everybody else. But just look around and think about that. How much you want to see every other individual here make it into the kingdom. You know, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. So we can't be content. We can't be content to hold any type of bad feelings toward anyone else. We just can't afford that. And that's not who we are. You'll never owe an explanation to any man, but you will owe an explanation to God. You will have to explain to God. And that thought to me is very scary, and it makes it very easy to just let it go. We're going to just let it go. We're not going to worry about it, and we're going to forgive. In Galatians 6, we'll flip over to Galatians 6 here. How quickly can I find it this time? Let's see. Oh. Why are these pages sticking together? Here we go. Galatians 6. Galatians 6, let's see. Yes, Galatians 6, verse 1. Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such an one in spirit, in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. It's scary to think that, we can be tempted, or we can cause others to be tempted based on an issue we're having. That's possible. We know that's possible. We've seen, anyone who's been in the church for any amount of time have seen many people come and go. It's sort of a sad thing, and it's not good. It's not a good thing to hold negative emotions. I'm going to continue on here in verse 2. We'll read to, let's see. We'll read a ways. We'll continue here in verse 2. Bear you one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. For if a man think himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. But let every man prove his own work, and then shall he have rejoicing in himself alone, and not in another. For every man shall bear his own burden. Let him that is taught in the word communicate unto him that is teaching in all good things. Verse 7, be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reapeth. For he that sows to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that sows to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap everlasting life. Here's two important scriptures that we've heard many feasts in a row, maybe. I don't know. I read these a lot and are very important. Verse 9 and verse 10. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are of the household of faith. We do need to be knee-deep in God's truth at all times. We truly do not have time to really dig into the world in any way at all. We don't have time for that, especially as time goes on. But that can be difficult. I work a lot of hours. I work with a bunch of heathens. I call them that because that's what they are. I'm sure none of them are going to be watching. It's fine. It's fine. They are, I talk to them every once in a while. Before there was a big group of us working together, there was a day or two, and it was only my boss and I working, and he'd ask a couple little questions, but quickly shut that down. Not really very interested. And none of these guys I work with are interested in anything other than what is going on in this world. They love to partake of concerts and listen to music that would make your ears bleed. It's awful. It's terrible. But anyway, I do have, and I'm sure that many of you all do as well, have a never-ending task of dealing with people in the world. We deal with people all day long. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I get ready for work. I go to work and I'm dealing with them all day long till 4:30, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting. Now, I work in sort of a dangerous environment, so we are moving heavy objects around. We build dump trucks. And snow plows and things like that. We move a lot of very heavy objects around. You ever seen a dump bed? We move those around with a crane, and so it requires everyone to be very attentive whenever we're at work. We do not have time to chat. You don't have time to think hardly even. We're always in communication, and there's a lot of opportunity for someone to be injured or seriously killed. So unfortunately, that's sort of a problem. I recognize that that's a problem, and I still need to be mindful of who I am. I need to be mindful of how I should be acting. I have to choose my words wisely, even when they don't. I don't do a great job. You're the same. You're in the same situation. Maybe not exactly the same situation, but we all have struggles, and we all deal with people, and it's hard. But it's our responsibility to keep ourselves on track, but not only ourselves, but to keep one another on track too, as well as we can, as much as we can. We should be. So I asked earlier, what can we do to endure to the very end? We can begin by leaning more on one another. We should lean more on one another. We should chat with one another throughout the year, days here and there. We should be talking. We should be staying in communication. We are supposed to be a family. We're supposed to be a family here, and we're a family. Do you feel like a family this year? Feel like a family? Feel like everybody's pretty close? Feel like there's a good family vibe going on around here. We've been doing pretty well. Everybody's been happy. Very inspiring feast, and I'm very thankful for it. I'm thankful for all of the activities. It seems like years past, maybe we've had a few evenings where there wasn't really much going on. This year, that has not been the case. We've had a lot of activities, and That has been wonderful. Speaking of activities, if you'd like to volunteer to help with some of them, raise your hand. I'm going to write your name down, and you're in trouble. So, let's see. You know, it's easy for us to feel like we're in it alone. When we go out of here and we sort of go our own direction, you know, it's easy for me when I go to work to, and I'm in the spiritual way alone. I don't have anyone that I can speak to about the truth. But that doesn't matter. I do after work. I do on the Sabbath. I mean, we just need to take advantage of those things and do everything we can all the time. I've kind of skipped through a little bit of this, and yeah, okay. You know, I say all this to say maybe that we've all been witness to destruction in the church, a destruction of individuals, it seems, in the church, falling away or going another direction. However that, works, we've seen even entire church groups disintegrate. We've seen entire organizations fall apart. It could be considered doom and gloom, or maybe even a little bit of, condemnation up here, but that's not really the story I'm trying to tell here. What are we fighting for? Is it worth all the effort that we have to put into it? Is it worth all the work that goes into living a good lifestyle, controlling our thoughts, maintaining a good relationship with everyone, a good attitude? Is it worth it? That shouldn't even be a question. It is. It's worth it. Of course it's worth it. Eternal life can be yours. It's not ours yet. But you can win. I can win. We can win. We can do it. We do need one another to succeed. That's sort of been, the main message, I think. We do have to work together. We have to work together completely, not excluding any called out person, called out from the world, called by God. Every person around us has received a calling from God. And we work together to one end. And that end is salvation. That's our salvation through the sacrifice of our Lord Jesus Christ. Our salvation is at stake. And we don't have it just yet. We don't have it just yet. So don't let that sacrifice of our Savior be in vain. Don't ever forget that God chose you. We push through the trials. We learn from temptation. Sometimes we fail. Sometimes we don't. We should celebrate when we don't. He's with you every step of the way. And so will everyone around you be. We're all in this together. The people around you are imperfect as well. There's no person in this building that can say that they are even close or remotely perfect. It's not possible. However, we are each responsible for our own salvation. Your cousin, he or she cannot work tirelessly to be just the best Christian and help you in, other than trying to help you, try to speak to you, try to help you in that way. The work is yours and the work is mine. This feast has been one of the most uplifting that I've ever attended. This is my 22nd feast. Here in Branson and in Kimberling City the entire time. I've never gone anywhere else. Been here for 22 years now. And this has got to be just the most uplifting that I've ever taken part of. It's been wonderful. And we've heard a lot of messages, and the focus of every message has been love. It's been love. It reminds me a bit of an old Indian proverb that you may be familiar with. I'll read a bit of it here. I'll read some of it here for you. It goes, an old Cherokee Indian chief was teaching his grandson about life. He said, "A fight is going on inside me, a fight between two wolves. The dark one, he is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego." He continued, "The light wolf is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith." He said, "The same fight is going on inside you, grandson, and inside of every other person on the face of the earth." The grandson ponders this for a moment and asked, "Grandfather, which wolf will win?" The old Cherokee smiled and simply said, "The one you feed." In the not too distant future, we each will face our destiny and answer for the life we led. We won't answer to any man. There's no man that we'll ever answer to, but we'll answer to our Creator. Our one and only chance is now. I have 2 scriptures written down here. You can go to them, but you don't really have to. You can write them down if you'd like. These 2 are these are our options. Matthew 25, verse 21 says, "His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord." Or Matthew 7, verse 22 and 23 says, "Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name, and in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works?" Verse 23 says, "And then I will profess to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity." Which one do you want to hear?